The ocean keeps its secrets locked in abyssal darkness. But sometimes, those secrets rise. And when they do, the world of men is shattered. For the sailors aboard the Archangel, the storm was the least of their fears. Hell had breached the surface, and it was hungry. The creature was a living island of muscle and malice, its gaze a cold, ancient intelligence. This was not an animal, it was a reckoning. They fought with the desperation of damned men, their swords and axes sparking uselessly against the Leviathan's hide. Their courage was a flickering candle against a hurricane. In the end, there was only the splintering of wood, the roar of the sea, and a final, echoing silence. This is the story of that silence, and the monsters that create it. The fear of the deep is as old as humanity itself. It is a primal dread, etched into our collective memory, a legacy of when the world was new and the waters were the domain of gods and monsters. The ancient Greeks, masters of logic and reason, still populated their seas with nightmares. They understood that some horrors could not be reasoned with, they could only be avoided. Scylla, the six-headed horror, and Charybdis, the unspeakable vortex. For the mariner, it was a choice between a swift, violent death, or a slow, grinding one. Long before the Greeks, the Babylonians gazed at the same waters and saw Tiamat, the primordial goddess of the salt sea. She was chaos incarnate, a dragon of creation from whose corpse the world was built. Her defeat brought order, but her memory lingered. A warning that the chaos she represented was never truly gone, merely sleeping beneath the waves. In the Levant, a new monster entered the canon, the Leviathan. Not just a creature, but a symbol of humanity's insignificance before the awesome, terrible power of the divine. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook? The scriptures ask. It is a rhetorical question. A reminder that some forces in the universe are beyond our dominion, beyond our understanding. These weren't just stories. They were psychological maps, charts for the soul. They gave a name to the formless anxiety that every sailor felt when the shore disappeared from view. The monster was a container for every fear, the storm, the rogue wave, the crushing loneliness, the terror of being lost forever in a world of water. Every culture that touched the sea developed its own pantheon of aquatic nightmares. The Japanese had the yumabozu, a dark shadow that rose from calm waters to demand a barrel from the crew. If they gave it one, it would use the barrel to drown them. If they refused, it would destroy them anyway. A perfect encapsulation of the sea's capricious cruelty. From the Finns Ikaturso to the sirens who lured sailors to their deaths, the message was consistent. The ocean was a separate kingdom, with its own dark monarchy, and trespassers were not welcome. The deeper the water, the darker the myth. Man has always populated the unknown with the very worst of his imagination. But in the cold, northern waters of Scandinavia, these scattered fears began to coalesce. They took on a specific name, a specific shape, and a terrifying new reality. The Norsemen, who lived and died by the sea, did not whisper of monsters. They spoke of them as fact. For them, the abyss was not empty. In the 13th century saga of Orvarad, we find two titans of the Greenland Sea. The first was the Hafguffa, the sea steam, so vast it was often mistaken for an island. Its method of hunting was deception. It would belch up food to attract schools of fish, and when ships came to investigate the bounty, it would close its colossal jaws, swallowing men and vessels whole. The second beast was the lingback, the heatherback, another island-like creature. Its danger lay not in malice, but in its very nature. Sailors would mistake it for land, make camp, and light a fire. The heat would awaken the great whale, which would then plunge into the depths, taking the unfortunate crew and their fire with it. A cautionary tale about the treacherous nature of the unknown. These creatures, the half-guffa and lingback, were the ancient prototypes. They were the genetic ancestors of the legend that would one day terrorize the entire world. The word itself, Kraken, is Norwegian. It refers to a crake, a crooked or deformed thing. A perfect name for a creature that seems to defy the natural order. For centuries, the Kraken remained a creature of folklore, a tale told by fishermen in hushed tones. But in the 18th century, it would be dragged from the realm of myth into the world of science. The man responsible was Erik Pontoppidan, the Bishop of Bergen. A man of God, but also a man of reason, a naturalist dedicated to cataloging the wonders of his native Norway. In his work, The Natural History of Norway, Pontoppidan did not treat the Kraken as a myth. He treated it as a zoological specimen, describing it with meticulous, and terrifying, detail. He described it as being of a round, flat form, and its arms, or rather tentacles, are as large as the mast of a moderately sized vessel. The legend was now in print. It had been given the weight of authority. Pontoppidan claimed its back was 1.5 miles in circumference. When it submerged, it created a whirlpool so powerful it could pull down any ship that came near. The old half-guffa myth, now dressed in scientific language. He even reported a positive aspect. Fishermen knew that after the Kraken had been in a certain spot, the fishing would be excellent, due to the creature's excrement attracting fish. Pontoppidan's work was widely read and hugely influential. For the European academic world, the Kraken was no longer a sailor's yarn. It was a genuine, if terrifying, species waiting to be formally discovered. The great Swedish naturalist, Carl Linnaeus, the father of modern taxonomy, even included the Kraken in the first edition of his Systema Naturae. He classified it as a cephalopod, with the scientific name Microcosmus marinus. In later editions, the entry was removed. Perhaps due to a lack of a physical specimen, or perhaps due to academic ridicule. The Kraken retreated from science, back into the shadows. But the seed had been planted in the public imagination. The Kraken was now more than a Norse legend, it was a global phenomenon, a phantom haunting the world's oceans. The stories evolved. The crab-like island of Pontoppidan gave way to a more agile, more aggressive predator. It became a creature of pure destruction. This transformation was fueled by a new era of human history. An age of exploration, where wooden ships were pushing further into the unknown than ever before. These voyages were triumphs of human ingenuity. But they were also journeys into profound terror. For months, even years, the crew's entire world was a few hundred feet of creaking wood, surrounded by an infinite, hostile wilderness. The psychological pressure was immense. Scurvy, storms, and the sheer, mind-numbing monotony could warp perception. The ocean itself could become a canvas for the mind's darkest creations. Imagine the scene, a moonless night, the only sound the groaning of the ship's timbers. Then, a shape in the water. Something vast, silent, and phosphorescent, moving just beneath the surface. Was it a whale? A school of fish? Or was it something else? In the exhausted, superstitious mind of a sailor far from home, every shadow held the potential for apocalypse. Sightings, both real and imagined, became commonplace. A French naval vessel reported an encounter off the coast of Angola in 1801 with a monstrous cuttlefish that it tried, and failed, to capture. The creature was too heavy, and the piece they managed to sever was lost in the struggle. The captain's official report was met with skepticism, but the story spread like wildfire through the ports of the world. The tales grew with each telling. Tentacles became long enough to encircle a ship, beaks strong enough to tear through oak, and an intelligence that seemed malevolent and personal. Whalers, the men who hunted the largest creatures on Earth, had their own stories. They spoke of whales returning from the depths with massive, circular scars on their hides. Scars from a battle with an unseen nemesis. Sometimes they would find more direct evidence. Giant tentacles, severed in the fight, would be found in the stomachs of the whales they harvested. Proof of a titan's war in the crushing dark. The world was getting smaller, but its oceans remained a realm of mystery. And nowhere was this mystery more beautifully, or terrifyingly, illustrated than on the maps of the era. Before the age of scientific survey, cartography was as much an art as a science. Mapmakers filled the vast, empty spaces of the sea not with blue, but with imagination. The motto of the age was, Hic sunt dragons, here be dragons. It was a warning, a confession of ignorance, and an invitation to adventure. Perhaps the greatest of these monster-filled maps was the Carta Marina, created by Swedish clergyman Olaus Magnus in 1539. It is a masterpiece of cartography and cryptozoology. The sea is alive with horrors. Whales with tusks, giant lobsters sinking ships, and serpentine beasts locked in combat. It is a visual representation of every sailor's deepest anxieties. And there, amidst the chaos, is a creature that looks suspiciously familiar. A tentacled beast, attacking a sailor who has fallen overboard. An early cousin of the Kraken, captured in ink. These maps were not just flights of fancy. The monsters served a practical purpose. They were a vivid warning to sailors about dangerous currents, treacherous reefs, or simply unexplored, and therefore perilous, waters. They were also a form of intellectual honesty. In an age before satellite imaging, the mapmaker used the monster to say, "I do not know what is here." A humble admission of the limits of human knowledge. But as the Enlightenment dawned, this humility gave way to a thirst for empirical knowledge. The new breed of naturalists wanted to categorize and understand the world, not just fear it. Men like Conrad Gessner and Ulysses Aldrovandi created massive encyclopedias, attempting to catalog every animal on Earth. But their sources were often unreliable, and the line between zoology and mythology remained blurry. In their pages, the squid and the octopus, real and observable creatures, were often depicted with a monstrous and terrifying flair. Their alien forms seemed to invite exaggeration. The sea monk, a creature supposedly caught off the coast of Denmark, was drawn to look like a man in religious robes. It was almost certainly a squid, misinterpreted through a lens of religious superstition. These early scientists were not fools. They were grappling with a world far more mysterious than our own, armed with fragments of information, sailors' tales, and the occasional decayed specimen that washed ashore. The problem was the evidence itself. Cephalopods, having no bones, decompose rapidly. What washed ashore was often a gelatinous, unrecognizable mass, leaving much to the imagination. For centuries, the Kraken lived in this liminal space, somewhere between a confirmed animal and a complete fantasy. It would take a series of dramatic, undeniable events to drag it fully into the light. The shift began not with scholars in their libraries, but with humble fishermen. Men who knew the sea not as an object of study, but as a dangerous and unpredictable workplace. The place was Newfoundland, Canada. A rugged island where the economy, and the culture, was built on the bounty of the cold North Atlantic. And in the 1870s, that bounty would include a monster. In October of 1873, two fishermen and a 12-year-old boy, Tom Pickcott, were in their dory in Conception Bay. They saw what they thought was a piece of wreckage and rowed over to investigate. As they struck it with a gaff, the wreckage came alive. It reared up, revealing a furious eye and a horny beak. Two long arms shot out and wrapped around their boat. The boy, Tom Pickcott, had the presence of mind to grab a hatchet. As the creature tried to pull them under, he frantically hacked at the tentacles, severing them from the main body. The wounded monster released its grip, inked the water, and disappeared into the depths, leaving the terrified fishermen with a 19-foot section of tentacle. They had fought the Kraken and survived. They brought the evidence ashore. It was examined by a local clergyman and amateur naturalist, the Reverend Moses Harvey. Harvey, a man of science and faith, knew he was looking at something monumental. This was not a sailor's tale. This was flesh and blood. It was the physical proof that had eluded naturalists for centuries. Harvey preserved the specimen in a brine-filled bathtub. Just a month later, another stroke of luck. A massive, intact specimen was caught in a fishing net nearby. Harvey seized the opportunity, buying the creature from the fisherman for $10. He draped the colossal creature over his sponge bath for a photograph. The resulting image would become iconic. It was the world's first photograph of a giant squid, the animal behind the myth. Harvey sent the specimens and his detailed notes to the leading experts of the day, including Professor Addison Emery Verrill at Yale University. The scientific world was electrified. Verrill formally described and named the species, Architeuthis dux. The ruling squid. The Kraken had finally been captured, not by a harpoon, but by taxonomy. It had been given a name and a place in the tree of life. The revelations about this real-life sea monster were astonishing. It was a creature of the deep, living in the crushing blackness thousands of feet below the surface. A realm as alien as another planet. It possessed the largest eyes of any animal on Earth, the size of basketballs, designed to capture the faintest glimmer of bioluminescent light in the abyss. Its 8 arms and 2 longer feeding tentacles were equipped with hundreds of powerful, toothed suckers. Each sucker, a marvel of biological engineering, could grip with immense force. At the center of its arms, a powerful, parrot-like beak, strong enough to slice through the thick blubber of a whale or the steel cable of a deep-sea submersible. It could change color in an instant, using specialized skin cells called chromatophores to communicate, to camouflage, or to mesmerize its prey. A ghost in the machine of the deep. For over a century after its discovery, not a single living Architeuthis was observed in its natural habitat. It was known only from dead or dying specimens that washed ashore. The living animal remained a ghost. Then, in 2004, Japanese scientists achieved the impossible. Using a baited camera rig, they captured the first ever images of a giant squid alive, and hunting, in the deep. And in 2012, the first video footage was captured. The myth finally stepped onto the world stage, not as a monster, but as a magnificent, real animal. A survivor from another world, hidden in our own. But the story doesn't end with Architeuthis. As scientists probed deeper, they discovered that the giant squid was not even the biggest cephalopod in the ocean. There was another, even more formidable contender. Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni. The colossal squid. Shorter than the giant squid, but far heavier, more robust. A heavyweight brawler to the giant's nimble boxer. Its primary weapons were even more terrifying. Where the giant squid has suckers lined with teeth, the colossal squid has suckers, and swiveling, razor-sharp hooks embedded in its arms and tentacles. This was a creature built not just to hold its prey, but to shred it. The ultimate predator of the southern abyss. And the likely source of those deep, gouging scars seen on Antarctic sperm whales. The existence of these two titans, the giant and the colossal squid, provides the final, crucial piece of the Kraken puzzle. The epic battles described in hushed tones by whalers were real. Imagine the scene, thousands of feet down. A sperm whale, hunting. It dives, its sonar clicking, searching for the telltale shape of a squid. And it finds one. The battle is a maelstrom of muscle and ink. The squid, desperate to escape, wraps its arms around the whale's head, trying to block its sonar, to block its breathing. Its beak snaps, trying to find purchase. The whale, with its immense power and weight, tries to drag the squid up from the crushing pressure of the deep, or down into depths the squid cannot survive. Most of the time, the whale wins. But sometimes, a large, powerful squid might get a lucky grip. It might damage the whale, or in the rarest of instances, even drown it. Or perhaps, in its death throes, it might cling to the whale as it surfaces. A whaler, seeing this titanic struggle erupt from the depths, would have no other word for it. It was the Kraken. The legend was not a lie, merely a glimpse of a war fought in a world beyond our own. Once the Kraken was identified as a real animal, it did not vanish from our culture. Instead, it became more powerful. It swam from the pages of science into the ink of literature. In 1866, Victor Hugo, in his novel, Toilers of the Sea, described a battle with a giant octopus. He called it a devilfish, a glutinous mass of fluid hatred. But it was another Frenchman who would cement the giant squid's place in literary immortality. Jules Verne, in his masterpiece, 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas. The attack of the poulp on the submarine Nautilus is one of the most famous scenes in adventure fiction. A battle of technology and intellect against the raw, untamable power of nature. Verne's description was so vivid, so terrifying, it defined the giant squid for generations. He gave the creature a personality, calculating, malevolent, and relentless. Across the Atlantic, Herman Melville used the giant squid in Moby Dick not as a monster to be fought, but as a symbol of the profound, ungraspable horror of the deep. The crew of the Pequod sees one surface, a vast, pulpy mass, only for it to vanish back into the abyss. It is a terrifying omen, a vision of the shapeless, godless chaos that the white whale, Moby Dick, truly represents. The Kraken, once a beast that could sink ships, had become a metaphor. A symbol for the abyss itself, and for the monsters lurking in the depths of the human psyche. Today, we have photographed it, dissected it, and sequenced its genome. We have stripped the Kraken of its mythological power. And yet, the mystery has not entirely vanished. Because the truth is, we know almost nothing. We have never seen it mate, never seen it raise its young. We do not know how large it can truly grow. The ocean floor is the last true frontier on our own planet. We have mapped the surface of Mars with greater accuracy than the bottom of our seas. Down there, in the eternal night and the crushing pressure, life exists in forms we are only just beginning to comprehend. Bioluminescent fish with teeth of glass, crabs that feed on methane, entire ecosystems powered not by the sun, but by the heat of the Earth's core. Every deep-sea expedition discovers new species, new wonders, new impossibilities. The abyss is not a void, it is a library of ancient life, and we have barely read the first page. And so the question lingers, whispered in the back of our minds. If a creature as vast and fantastical as the giant squid could remain hidden for so long, what else is down there? Perhaps our age of reason has made us arrogant. We believe that what we have not seen, cannot exist. We have forgotten the humility of the old cartographers. We no longer write, "Here be dragons" on our maps. But that does not mean the dragons are gone. Perhaps it only means we are no longer brave enough to look for them. The Kraken, we now know, was a giant squid. A magnificent animal, misunderstood and mythologized. But the sea monster is something else entirely. It is an idea. It is the embodiment of the untamable power of nature, a force that can shatter our works and our pride in an instant. It is a reminder that we are not masters of this planet, merely temporary residents. The real story of the Kraken is not about a squid. It is about the human imagination, and its timeless, desperate need to give a face to the great, terrifying unknown. The monster may have been catalogued, but the darkness that spawned it remains. It lives in the deep ocean, and it lives in the deep, dark corners of our own minds, waiting for the lights to go out.